looking very good. Joining in from Ngong Road is not bad. Joining in the roundabout sio mbaya, lakini kuanzia pale Prestige kidogo imeshikana rosa between Prestige na Coptic kidogo kuna snala papo kidogo and going towards town. Kwa hivyo but Mombasa Road is looking generally very clear. Adams Arcade kidogo pale kwenye lights iko na jam kidogo. Wapi kwingine pale karibu na Marsabit Plaza kidogo na Junction na Kuma Junction siku hizi inaitwa the Junction Carrefour. Depends on where you come. Kama ni wewe kama ni mimi ulienda shule polling station ama Carrefour. Kama ni wewe ni kama Joy nasema Carrefour. Haya. Na jam imeshika jam kidogo hapo Kingara Road kwa mlima. There's traffic both ways going towards Valley Arcade and also exiting Valley Arcade coming towards at the junction imeshikana kushikana. Riara Road is not looking good at all. Riara Road is not looking good at all between the Junction Heights and the Junction and the Riara Junction. Kingara Road towards the end all the way mpaka pale juu imeshikana zaidi. So if you can avoid Kingara Road, tafadhali stick on the main road ya Ngong Road. If you can, Valley Arcade is not looking good either. Kithanga Road imeshika zaidi mpaka pale Valley Arcade Junction ya Quickmart is not looking very nice. If you can avoid that road, unaweza tumia pale Kawangware Naivasha Road imeshikana kuanzia juu Kawangware. So if you can use the Naivasha Road utokelezea junction, then it can be better for you. That is it for you on the traffic update. Looking very good. Haina mambo kidogo. Haya tunaingia kwenye gazeti haraka upesi. Haya the next first lady. So Standard waliamua sasa ile kitu tutaingia kwa headline leo. Who is going to be the next first lady. But anyway, looking at it, nimeona kina nani hapo wamekwa the first lady. Nimeona Mama Hida Odinga amekwa pale. Mama Hida Odinga anatangulia. Nimeona mke wa nani hapa, I think mke wa Maura. Then we are seeing Madam wa Rigathi Gachagua na pia Rachel Ruto, Excellence Rachel Ruto ako pale pia. That is in the Standard. And next paper is the Daily Nation. The Daily Nation inasema now Sakaja faces arrest for forgery. Mambo ya Sakaja inaendelea kuzidi kuwa sege munege. Maji inazidi unga. And that's one of the things that we're going to start off with. Sakaja inasemekana ya kwamba is now facing a criminal offense and he could end up in jail for 3 years. Miaka 3. Joe pia hapa is a lawyer. Tatuambia ni ukweli ama ni mambo vipi. Anasema now Sakaja faces arrest for forgery. A property embattled Nairobi senator was last evening in the crosshairs over the international criminal investigation over his degree certificate, with Ugandan officials demanding proof of his admission to Tim University, evidence he paid tuition fees and his transcripts in Nairobi. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations confirmed that Mr. Sakaja and officials of the university were under investigation for transnational crime. Okay. It's interesting how this thing has blown out of proportion in a few days. So we're going to pay attention. Murder case, White Kanzu kept on live bullet linked to Joey and Maribe in murder case. Case ya Joey Maribe na...
Ati Joey Maribe.
Joey.
Ni Jackie.
Joey na Jackie Maribe. Apologies. Joey na Jackie Maribe inaendelea pale. How many years now? Should be the 4th year. It's interesting how long cases take in this country. Okay. Pia watu wa transport sector wanapiga kelele pale. Pay this with port cargo delays. Transport Association wameanza kuleta shida pale, wanasema port inawachezea segere kidogo. And they saying the government is forcing them to use the SGR. Na hawataki. Wamesema they don't want to use the SGR. Haya, gazeti nyingine hapo ni the Business Daily. Daily inasema EACC to monitor wealth of external staff for 10 years. Ukimaliza kazi serikalini unakuwa monitored for 10 years by the EACC. Unanunua nini, unauza nini, wapi na kwa nini. Okay. Cargo delays in Mombasa port in payroll. In mambo pia port KRA gives ultimatum on Biden's global taxation plan. Okay. Top CEO's position on confidence and growth. Hiyo ni mambo ni kama itusu kidogo. Gazeti gani imebaki? Taifa Leo na The People Daily. Taifa Leo nasema kumbe wanadoa. Kampeni hatua za waoniaji 4 wa urais iliyoidhinishwa na tume huru ya uchaguzi na mipaka Iebc kutoa ahadi za kila aina kwa Wakenya imeibua masuala ikiwa wamegeuka malaika wapya ghafla, ikizingatiwa kuwa matendo yao ya awali ni ya kutiliwa shaka. Vigogo au ni naibu wa rais William Ruto, Raila Odinga, Azimio Kenya, Professor George Wajakoya, Roots Party of Kenya, anasema pass. Anasema na Bwana Mwaura Wahiga, Agano Party of Kenya. Haya, mivutano ya tikisa jahazi la Raila. Kuna mambo pale kwa leo, anasema waniaje Tharaka Nithi walaumu Kibunja kuhamishia mikutano ghafla. pale kidogo Azimio kuna mambo ODM. 12,000 wakwama Ukraine, 12,000. Yuani asema wengi wamekwama vitani bila bidhaa za kimsingi za matumizi. Mambo pale Ukraine bado inazidi, and it's very interesting how we move on from things. We were speaking and talking about Ukraine and Russia. Suddenly, we are so quiet. And that's how the world moves on, by the way. Mambo ikigeuka, that's how the world moves on. People Daily, au Kalonzo and forced Ngilu's move. Supreme Battle Wiper leader wants Azimio to clear way for its candidates in Ukambani as Kitui governor demands cabinet slot from Raila. Ngilu made it clear she would only agree to work with Kalonzo in the same coalition if she was treated the same way as him. Okay. That's set for the next UK Premier League season. Nani nyingine hapa kidogo, the Senate Sergeant at Arms. Senate jana kama imefungwa pia. Jana Senate, I'm talking about sports. Nimesikia watu wa basketball, watu wa mpira wa kurusha kwenye kikapu. Jana ni kama walikuwa na ushindi kidogo. Mimi sifuatilii, lakini kuna kijana hapa anafuatilia. Napea stories juu jana nini liendelea pale basketball. Nasema NBA Championships, Golden State Warriors 2021-2022 walipiga the Celtics kwa mara ya kwanza wamenyoroshwa na Golden State. Yes. Okay. The MVP Stephen Curry. Haya leo naona watu wa sporti ndio hiyo. Haya pia pale naambia kwamba nakumbusha kwamba Aptitude inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kumiliki shamba kwa njia shwari zaidi. Tulikuwa na shamba kadhaa. Jana tulikuwa Happy Gardens pale Kitengela, ambapo unaweza pata shamba kwa bei nafuu zaidi ya hadi 1.95 million. Na tukupata nafasi ya kuweza kulipia kwa zaidi ya miezi 12. For 12 months, you get an opportunity to pay for the land. Unalipa tu deposit 500,000. Alafu hiyo nyingine unaweza kulipia pole pale Happy Gardens, a very beautiful property by Aptitude Limited. Na pia kama wewe ni mtu unataka kununua shamba pale Nanyuki, ukifanya road trip unaenda nyumbani, pale Nanyuki tuko na the Great Oasis. The Great Oasis unapata shamba an eighth at only 349,000. Pale watu wa Coast pia Malindi Breeze tunawaletea Malindi Breeze at only 499,000. Na kama ukichelewa utapata imefika 599. Pia kama una pale Dance Challenge, you have an opportunity to get a ruin and half an acre of a property kwenye Dance Challenge by Optiven. Hebu niambie wewe unaweza dance wapi? Nitumie video ya wewe ukipiga sakata kidogo, kama ni rumba ama ni afropop ama unacheza naitwaje gengeton, mambaru, Subaru sijui imekuja na mambaru. Haya. Sawa, tunaingia kazi haraka upesi. BICHACHI, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Mambo vipi? Kwa salama?
Salama sana.
It's been a while tujaonana.
Ulimtupa kwa sababu ulipata BICHACHI mwingine.
Hapana. Wewe unajua unaalikwa saa zingine kazi ni mingi, nasikia uko Dubai, sijui uko wapi, unasafiri. Si kama unaweza toa mask.
I've been traveling quite a bit. That is true, but I'm back now.
Karibu Kenya.
Asante sana.
Wewe ndio ulikuwa umeenda ku print ballot papers?
Hapana. Oe, don't land me in trouble. Wataka niuliwe bure.
Nisikia kuna Mkenya mashuhuri.
I have nothing to do with ballot papers.
So ni nini ulikuwa umeendea?
No.
You need to be very careful during elections. Traveling can attract a lot of speculation. Especially when he is a man of his stature who's in control of government affairs.
No, I'm not in control of government affairs. I was just traveling for my personal work. Lazima tutafute pesa bana. Hii Kenya shilingi na slip, so tutafute dollars.
Okay. Sasa dola hazipo kwenye soko ama ulienda kutafuta zingine wapi?
Si unatafuta zile za where you get them from source. Yeah.
Unakuja nazo kwa mfuko.
But
you say. But you don't say
Unaweka tu kwa wallet. Unatoanga kidogo.
Ati dola iko Kenya, aliendea kwa source. Na hata uambiaje watu?
You don't say.
You don't even say.
You don't say.
Alright, I do this ladies. Hata ringi. Imagine. Kama ingekuwa mimi. Hapo nikishuka nimeweka billboard JKA, I went for dollars. Yeah, uliona kama ile ya love affair ile ya Valentine.
Me for dollars, double price guarantee.
Yes.
Alright. Naza biashara ya dola.
The dollar merchant.
Alright, say hi to Kenyans who are watching it this morning. Your camera is just right ahead of you. Pale.
Good morning, Kenyans. Good evening to those who are watching from across the world. I am here on the tackle with my good friend, Joy MDIVO. We're looking for a very, spectacular show. It's always nice fireworks and very vivacious. Joy MDIVO is here.
Kiingereza tupu.
Mtajuaje alilipiwa fees?
Good morning to you, Joy MDIVO.
Mimi niko poa.
Kwanza, you've been ghosting us for 2 years. What the hell is wrong with you?
Ghosting you how? So I was just telling you we're in the same compound and we knew not. Sasa anyway, but leo nimekuja. Ghosting imeisha.
Salimia
okay. Zimeisha. Leo nimekam.
Leo umekam. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Leo umekam. Haya, salimia kana pale mbele yako.
Hi everybody, how are you doing? I'm really happy to be here. Like he says, it's been a long time coming. Of yes, no, yeah. Hayawi.
Uwa. Mwishowe uwa. Hayawi mwishowe. Hata degree hayawi ukuja. Nyingine inakuja na meli, nyingine inapita boda ya Malaba, zingine inatoka na kama ya Waititi. Una Waititi alienda ngapi?
Sijui Ferdinand Clifford.
See, he's fighting to see whether he can run for governor.
No, see on which party?
But remember,
am I independent?
There's a case as well about him. Him and Sonko have the same case.
What is the case? Impeachment.
The case whether an impeached person can run for governor.
So hivyo ndio mlifanyia tu Clifford.
But Clifford, it's interesting. Clifford and Sakaja have the same story about their degrees, about their names. Will the outcome be the same? This is the question.
What about the names? Other.
You remember, Sakaja clarified on his name. And Babayao also clarified on his name. That's why the name Clifford came. You remember?
No, it's because his degree had a different name. That's why he needed to clarify.
Exactly. So I'm just saying there's a lot of similarities.
Talking about degree, unajua thermometer ijaenda shule lakini kuna degrees na Kenya. I would want us to start off on that note and looking at a reference point. Yesterday the deputy president asked Raila Odinga as the presidential candidate, name your classmates. Amesema sema ulikuwa na nani shule. Kuanzia primary mpaka high school mpaka secondary mpaka college mpaka yote, he has dared them to name his classmates. Johnson Sakaja as well is on the flyer. The DCI, George Kinoti, has said, we cannot surrender our city to criminals. Those are the words of George Kinoti. Mwenyewe amesema we cannot surrender our city to criminals, and that is in relation to the document, the degree that is in doubt from the Team University in Uganda. Na pale Uganda pia nasikia operation imechacha zaidi. Minister of Education, that is Janet Museveni, who happens to be the babies of President Museveni, the darling of President Museveni. Janet Museveni is the Minister of Education, has sent in education officials to the Team University to go and clarify 3 things. 1, the date of admission for Johnson Sakaja. If they can find a selfie or a picture, they also share. The fees, the proof of payment of fees, the transcripts and other things, and when he graduated, and the booklet on his graduation. Those are the things that are being requested by Janet Museveni, the Minister of Education in Uganda. And also hapa nyumbani, DCI George Kinoti, kama kidogo ameleta mambo kidogo, is saying now Johnson Sakaja is a part of a international criminal racket because of forgery. And they're saying he could end up in jail for 3 years. Joy.
Magistrate.
Nimesikia ni magistrate.
Maneno niliachanga kitambo kidogo.
Lakini
ni ukweli. Ulikuanga huko kwa CV.
Ulikuanga huko.
Huko kwa CV.
Kwa CV. Lakini si umefanya. Tuanze na hapa. The forgery, is it a criminal offense? And what are the consequences?
It is a criminal offense. That is not in doubt at all. So there's various things to prove, though, in forgery, because it needs to be a document that you have created, and you have to also try and rely on the same. So there is the forgery, there is the uttering. So it's a complicated thing to prove, because when you're talking about forgery, you talk about a document. So you have to find, is this document authentic or not authentic? How you do it is, the maker is the person who made it, the one who actually made it or not. So in this particular instance, I'm not sure what we're looking at is forgery. It might be something else, but not forgery.
Okay. Could be something else, but not forgery.
No, it's because if I bring you, for example, something like, a paper that I have made myself and I have stamped myself and I've given you, and you tell somebody, I have an originally signed letter from MDIVO, it is an originally signed letter from MDIVO. So it is not forged. It is a real document from MDIVO.
Okay.
If your problem is was that letter procured in the normal way, that's what I'm saying, that would be a different conversation. Okay. But to make it easy for people to understand, you call it forgery. But when you look at it technically, to prove forgery, in this particular instance, maybe, because if the document did come from the university, the seal is a real one from the university, the signature is a real one how then do you prove forgery? What is the crime of forgery? That's what I'm saying. It's when you look at it in legalese, it becomes technical.
That's a bit difficult. In this country, proving things legally can be a bit of a problem. In your own opinion, Mark BICHACHI, what is forgery and what is not forgery?
Well, I always say that there's always the legal question and the moral question. So in terms of the legality, as Joy has quite eloquently put it, that you need to prove that the document was created by a person other than who has been authorized to make that document, then it's a forgery. But then again, there's the question of whether he went to the university and the university used its legal instruments to make the document appear. Now, the document is supposed to be testimony of the fact that he has been in that school and has gone through the required course or outline to be able to do to achieve rather the status of holding a degree. Now, whether he did that or not is what is in question, because it is definitely possible to get an academic vice chancellor, to write for you a certificate that says you graduated. Okay. But whether you went through the coursework, the examinations, and things like that is what is also in question. But for me, and let me just state my position, which has been constant throughout this degree debate from the beginning. Number one, I think the degree requirement in Kenyan election is prejudiciary. Okay. I think it's prejudiced against people who could not afford to go to university, right? Because I know a lot of people who got B+ back in the day who couldn't afford to go to university. So are we saying they can't be leaders? Number two, it also talks about the fact that it is not free. Okay? It is something that you pay for. So I think that if we're going to give a requirement for a degree, then we also need to make degrees free, accessible, and affordable so that any Janet, Harriet, and Claret can actually go to a university and get their degree without it being a financial burden. That's number one. Because what if Sakaja just simply didn't have the money to do so? So that's my view. But then there's the very legal question and moral question that we now have a requirement in our books. Sakaja has been a member of parliament, has been a senator, for the last 10 years of his life. It is my considered opinion that he had enough time to procure a degree.
To procure or to go to school?
To procure. Okay. I have not misspoken. Because you can procure by buying or you can procure by actually working and getting it. My thing is this, that because this is a moral question and our kids are watching, we need to ask ourselves that is it moral then for the whole country to know that it is highly improbable that you got this degree, and then we are pushing it down people's throats, which is why we must respect what William Ruto is doing in asking Honorable Raila Odinga to show that he actually went to school as well, because these are the questions that we need to ask. Why? Because we have decided to gift it to ourselves that this should be a requirement. So the moral question of whether Sakaja is doing the right thing or the wrong thing, if this degree is fake, then he's doing the wrong thing, and that's just the bottom line. That's the tough tackle.
So Joy,
and then also just one more thing. Let's remember.
Mark never comes up for air.
No, but one more thing, Joy. Let's remember that he was on the other side of Jubilee for a very long time. They know all his weaknesses. And if I was Polycarp Igathe, I would push this degree thing to the hilt.
If you are Polycarp Igathe.
If I was Polycarp,
You'll push it.
I'd push it to the hilt.
And let me just go in there. And if I was Polycarp Igathe, I would take note of what would happen to me in case I fell out with the people who are currently making sure that I get into City Hall by hook or by crook.
You'd be taking notes. Even before you get to taking notes. What? Okay. Yeah, we go to about taking, and you know, getting to specify these cases are there. Tuanze na history a degree. Is it? I mean, does it speak into the aptitude of leadership? Does it affect leadership? Does it add any value? Does it make leadership any different? And does it mean that those who have degrees are better leaders? Do we need them?
The proponents of this degree requirement, quite frankly, used the reasoning that for you to become a president or for you to become a governor, you are CEO of an enterprise called the country or called the county. So because you're the CEO of Kenya or you're the CEO of a county, then you need to have a certain aptitude level that gives you an edge over the people that you're leading. So this is the equivalent of trying to find somebody like Saul, who's head and shoulders above everybody else. But if you remember, even in the Bible, Saul was head and shoulders above all the other Israelites. But when Goliath came, he was the biggest and tallest of all the Israelites, but he's the one who was like, by the way, just go, I'll give you my daughter. He didn't volunteer himself. And yet, if you looked at parameters, he was the most supremely qualified to go face Goliath. Now, when we're looking at this particular instance, when guys said that we needed to have degrees, at the time, maybe they were thinking that this is going to be Amchujo to give us the best leaders. But I wish this was confined to Sakaja only. Those of us who, are minded to look a little bit, we will find that many of our leaders have got dubious credentials. Many of them are famed to have degrees that they did not study for themselves, had people see papers for them. So the question that Mark is saying, it's not a question that Sakaja has a degree. He has a degree from Teams. The question that is being interrogated is, did he really earn his degree or not? Now, when we start asking the question of, did you earn your degree or not? And we open the Pandora's box of all our leaders who have degrees and find out, did they really earn it or not? Then you realize what we have done is, as Mark has correctly pointed out, we've put a hurdle in people's way. But for the others who have just a little bit of money, they don't even bother with the studying. They just go ahead and procure themselves a degree. So in that instance, does it guarantee that we're getting the best leaders? No, we're just getting the most determined buggers who go and do anything that they can do to be able to cross that
get
line.
Qualifications.
And that's now what we are
Because there's no exam. I wish there was a test, though.
In fact, that's what I was going to head. I was like, if you wanted to measure aptitude, what you would have done is for somebody to be a governor, they ought to sit an aptitude test. And if they pass the aptitude test, then that is deemed to be qualification. Because a degree, and you could have a degree in anything. You know, it could be a degree in something that's completely useless that nobody even is going to use. So what does that prove? That
History of arts and culture.
That you can sit in one space for 4 years. That's all it proves. That you can sit in a chair for 4 years and wait patiently for a graduation day.
For a gown.
Because even when you're looking at qualifications professionally, you'd look for a degree in an area where it is relevant. Here they didn't say a degree in accounts, project management, city planning, or economics. No, they just said just come with a degree, any degree, anything. As long as it's a degree.
Even a theology degree is a degree.
That's why, like for me, if you ask me, I think Sakat is just being persecuted. Because what he's guilty of, tukifungua server, sijui tutabaki na nani kwa debe.
Tufungue ama tusifungue?
Kwanza ma deputy governors. Kuna ngori.
But the question is, and I find it crazy, the ambiguity in the requirement for a degree. Because they are saying it will help you be a better manager. A better manager in what exactly? In what field? In what sector of leadership? What sector of management? No, because if you are saying they want a better financial manager, then you need a financial degree. They're saying, okay, you want something like that. But now they're just saying, come one, come all, as long as you have a paper that's written a degree.
No, but what Mark is saying is exactly on the money. This is discrimination. Okay. As per our last census, only 3.5% of Kenyans actually have a degree. 3.5%. That means over 97% of Kenyans because that tumeongezeka since that time. Over 97% of Kenyans do not have a degree. We are here promoting CBC, CBC that is telling Kenyans, but they don't even need a degree to succeed in life. What that tells us is that we're creating an elitist society where it will be the preserve of this little clique of tiny little, less than, in fact, I think that the less than 500,000 people in Kenya who have a degree. Those are the only ones who can ever aspire. You know, when we were kicking out the provision of president must be 35 years old, it's because we're saying any Kenyan should be able to aspire. We go ahead and whittle it even further to say now he must have a degree. Hata tungeacha basi 35 years old.
Yes. And that's what the question should be is, and I like the idea of an aptitude test, because a leader should be able to read and write. I should be able to have a grasp of issues, to understand
Nairobi City.
Yes, to understand common issues. Because the problem here is this. Kenya does not have an intellectual leadership problem. Kenyans are not dandas. That's not where the problem is. Kenya has a problem of a moral leadership. We get into leadership.
We are not in short of education.
Yes, education. In fact, forget about education. Listen to this. I want you to understand. If you go to the United States and give somebody's grandmother a phone and tell them to do M-Pesa or to use it to do any transaction or even to join WhatsApp, they don't know. Here in Kenya, your grandmother knows M-Pesa, knows her balance, you can't con her, and things like that.
She's on Snapchat.
Yes.
She FaceTimes you.
Yes. So the intellectual capacity of the Kenyan is not what is in question. In fact, if we were to ask ourselves genuinely whether Sakaja is mentally capable of being governor of this county, then he is. That's without doubt. But because we've created this funnel called a degree, which by the way also goes counter to a lot of the things that we want to do. For example, Kenya wants to industrialize, right? If you look at the Big Four agenda, or you look at the bottom-up economic model where they're also talking about manufacturing, or you look at the Inawezekana agenda where they're talking about manufacturing, then we need to create jobs. Do you know how many people in a factory need to have degrees? Only about 20%. The rest of the 80% need to have artisanal skills.
And they still produce bulbs.
Yes, and they still produce a lot of things. So the over-glorification of a degree is wrong in and of itself. But the question now remains that Sakaja has put himself in a corner. And the corner he's put himself in is that he's claimed many times that he has this degree. So he's putting his own integrity in question. And those are some of the nuances that he has to deal with. But we must also accept, Gerald, that at the end of the day, wherever Polycarp Igathe is, he has put 20% of his budget right now to the lawyers and the courts and whatever to ensure that Sakaja is not on the ballot. Why? Because that's how you win. Remember when Moses Kuria ran unopposed?
Yes.
So Igathe is hoping for such a scenario. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him because, of course, there are other candidates from smaller parties, but I will not blame Igathe for trying to bar Sakaja.
But do you think it is Igathe doing this really? I don't even think Igathe has the
doing
capability to put the muscle behind it. You see, Igathe, look at the chain. Where does the chain end up? Who's holding the other end? Because, quite frankly, you'd have to be a very naive Kenyan to imagine that Igathe was just sitting in his house and thinking to himself, oh God, Ngatia has been campaigning for all this time. Look at him, Wanyonyi. He looks like he's a really strong candidate. You know what? Let me just get out of holiday and decide I'm going to run. Really? Give us a little bit of benefit of understanding Kenyan politics.
I have no doubt in my mind
Igathe is somebody's candidate, and somebody is making sure that his candidate gets a through pass. In the meantime, wacha Igathe apande matatu, aoshe choo, na hata akiweza tubebe mimba.
But the truth of the matter is, Joy, I have not refused that he is definitely a golden boy with golden blue eyes.
And that's why I'm telling him to take notes.
Yeah.
He needs to stay golden. If he turns into brass, if he gets tarnished in any way. There's a playbook.
But the point point is, at the end of the day, he's Sakaja's competition, whether we like
That
it or
is
not.
true.
You
That
get,
is true.
he's Sakaja's competition. And as Sakaja's competition, if I were him, I would push this down to the hilt. That's just good politics,
Yeah.
you know.
But
It's
even
just
as you're
good-
raising...
On that score,
Yes,
it's
even
just
as
good
you're
tolerate.
Yeah.
Because I think Matiang'i has a candidate.
Where?
There's a guy for UPA who is running for governor. I forget
Oh,
his
yes,
name.
Yeah, there's a...
He has a billboard.
He took a billboard with a
Valley Arcade.
Johnny jacket. I
Around
was like,
Valley Arcade,
wow.
Yeah.
hapo Valley Arcade karibu
Yes.
na Sitam akona Integrity Center akona billboard.
I
So
can-
Matiang'i pia akona candidate.
Matiang'i got a candidate.
But you see,
The
that's
Lord
the
is
thing.
good.
Because I think Sakaja, you know, when you get into politics, okay, if you've got a tape that is showing you in unflattering situations, you've got skeletons in your closet, you know, you
Tafuta
start
padlock.
early. You start locking your thing. Sakaja forgot that he's got skeletons in his closet. Na padlock Joy anauza hakununua.
Ni kweli, by the way, in fact, I was telling somebody, surely he has exemplified himself as a politician. He's sponsored bills that make sense. He has made proposals that make sense. He has even demonstrated some moral aptitude. The time when he was caught partying during COVID,
Yes, during
he actually
COVID.
resigned
At
from the
Ladies'
COVID
Lounge.
committee. Yes, Ambassador at Ladies' Lounge. He's actually demonstrated that he's got what we would like to see in our leaders. And
Including Shere.
including kupiga sherehe. Yes, but so if he knew all along that this was a problem, I'm sure this thing at him that it was his attempt at trying to fix it, but maybe he should have done it a little bit smarter because where he is right now, he's hanging out to dry.
Because I think
He's hanging out
every
to dry.
Kenyan knows the way he's presented it and how he's weaved the narrative and how the degree appeared suddenly out of nowhere. Every Kenyan kind of knows that there's a game being played. And I think his only benefit is we are a society that genuinely doesn't care how you get where you are in life. You know, we don't query. You know, if I drive home with a Range Rover today,
Nobody would ask you.
nobody would ask me. And therefore, he's taken advantage
Yeah.
of that. But if this was Japan, he would need to go, what is that thing that you do where you sit?
You down your sword.
Yes, you down.
But we are not an honor society.
Yes,
with
exactly.
With us, we are an achievement society.
Yes.
We celebrate achievement. We don't celebrate honor.
Yes,
So-
the process does not matter.
No,
As long as
it
the
doesn't. The
goose is
result.
cooked.
Kitu muhimu ni kupika.
Us, we're the eating people. The proof is in the eating.
Watu wa Bomet wanasema tarehe.
Tare.
Kumaliza ni kumaliza. Hata kumaliza class 1 ni kumaliza. Hata kumaliza Sunday school ni kumaliza. But even Mark, as you raise the moral question in terms of Sakaja and the fact that you were saying that he's on the slasher, on the thresher, because it's a more moral question than a leadership question. Now, what do we say about the people who are pursuing his neck? Because these are his friends. They used to chill together. I'm pretty sure if Sakaja was running on a Jubilee ticket, we could not be having all these suckers. So can we equally raise the moral question on the other end?
Well, you see, the truth of the matter is that, as Joy has put it, there are very many leaders in this country with questionable degrees. I remember we made fun of Joho for a long time.
And Joy is very quiet, by the way.
For getting a D. You know, you don't when you live in a glass house, bana. You know, you can't be stoning people.
Don't even be seen with a stone.
Hey, bana. You know, so here's the thing. The truth is that each political side protects its own. And each political side attacks the enemy. Now, unfortunately for Sakaja, the people he used to chill with are now his political enemies. I don't think they're enemies in
big
real
ones.
life.
Yeah,
We know politicians.
competition.
They'll be having coffee by the end of the week and sipping single malt Glenlivet, 21 years old, you know, which is enough to pay rent for some of us, you know. So they'll be drinking together. But in terms of the political field, and I think this is a key lesson. You see, Joy is my friend, okay? If I'm running for office and Joy is on the other side, I am very scared because there are things I've told Joy that if she says in a campaign rally, I lose votes.
Things will get relevant.
You understand? So there's that thing. But you see, there are two questions. So number one, for me, I congratulate Jubilee and I congratulate even William Ruto for playing the academic card. When William Ruto asks Raila Odinga to bring his documents out, he's doing good politics. That's very good politics. And similarly, when Jubilee and the rest are pushing for Sakaja to prove his academic credentials, it's good politics because at the very least, what do they win? win. What they win is Sakaja has not been on the campaign trail for almost 2 weeks. Why? Because he's trying to figure this degree thing out. Meanwhile, Igathe is carrying Joy's pregnancy for her,
and washing dishes around.
And he's washing the dishes as well, which is why Joy was able to make it here on time. So yes, exactly. It's just good politics. But the question that now we will have to answer, and this is for generations, and it goes to Joho. You remember Joho's case actually proving his degree is what has brought this level of scrutiny at the IEBC level. Remember, the ruling said that IEBC should have scrutinized and known whether this degree is fake or real before the election, because it is a requirement of the election. So Joho's case is what has brought us here. It is what has cost Jimmy Wanjigi, it has cost Nyambane, it has cost a lot of people. Why? Because it is now a requirement. So now, in terms of the moral question, our kids are watching this and we want them to go to university, want them to study. They'll ask, Dad, you have money, why don't we just buy one?
But is this like for Timothy? I feel for him kiasi, because him has got proof that amesoma graduation anangojea na naambiwa wewe wachana una degree, alafu watu wengine wanakuja na karatasi ya kufungia nyama na naambiwa wewe uko na muhuri. Okay, sawa, weka hapa, shika certificate zako
za mbinguni hakuna degree.
Kenya wewe Kenya wewe IBC.
But the thing is, I don't know.
But the leaders are favored. Can you imagine if we had 46 candidates for president?
And that was
true that.
That would have been a booklet. And then William Izuko at the end.
No, but
Raila Izuko in the middle.
No, but the requirements of collecting signatures, making sure that you have some countrywide support, that's one of the reasons why many of them were knocked off.
Yes,
because in terms of degrees,
actually,
I know some of them
was knocked off because of the signatures.
Yeah, many of them.
Kiriara was knocked off because of the same thing.
And nominating his wife to be running mate.
Oh.
That Kariara, what's his name? The one who was Kaluyu's running mate last time. So his running mate was his wife. Like, you know what? I'm telling you, just keep in the family.
That's Museveni level.
Let me show you how it's done. Don't appoint her. Run with her. Run with her.
First lady and deputy president.
Yeah.
Are you serious, don't you?
Yes, it was run for us. Run.
Are you sure? Yeah, I have to Google this. I actually have to call him because this is very serious.
It was a bedroom affair.
Yes. Mnapanga serikali kwa Jumatatu jioni. Asimu mnatoka na my government.
Now, there are two guys who have been in other news. Wavinya Ndeti apparently did a master's day.
In 6 months.
In 6 months. It was 6 months.
Me, I want that one.
There's Wavinya. There's who's this the lady at the coast?
Aisha
Jumwa. There's Simbarati. There's quite a list of people who have got magical degrees.
Even Sonko.
Hey, Sonko.
He graduated.
Yeah. But Sonko
he graduated.
Yeah, but we're seeing Sonko, man. We saw Sonko in a gown.
And the Syria of Nairobi. And the coffee. With President Kenyatta. I'm telling you. I actually said you are na kesi ya kutoa degree for MP. Hiyo kesi iliwasaidia sana. Akina Sudi.
So do you hear Raila Odinga apparently cannot explain also his way through the education system. Or rather, he has not come out to explain. And this is what I've been wondering. Why all these guys who have been accused of not having these things, why can't they just come out and line up on KICC and prove and tell us, you guys, I'm Mark BICHACHI. You guys out there, you've been saying, I never went to school. I went to America. These are documents, these are proof and all that. These are my classmates, Dr. Joy, MDIVO. That guy. Why are they not doing this? Does it mean that all these guys, they have fake papers?
You know, the thing is, Raila Odinga's story is very interesting. First and foremost, I have met a number of old people who interacted with Raila when he was in Europe doing his education. Right?
And you're putting it quote in quote.
No, because you see, the thing is, there's a difference between being in school and finishing school. You get? Okay. And I do not want to speak for Raila Odinga because I was not even born when the guy was supposedly in school. Okay. But here's the question.
Were your parents born? Were your parents born?
They should
My
show up.
parents were, yes.
They should show up and say,
They're not that young. But the issue, the reason why I'm asking this, why I'm saying this, is because the issue of Raila Odinga's education has been in our national narrative for a long time. We even talked, it was a very big issue in 2013, if you remember. But you see, unlike many other people, either no one has been able to take him to court and prove that he didn't have a degree, but also we forget that the guy worked at the University of Nairobi before he was detained, right? And generally to work in the lab of a university, it is assumed that you have the necessary qualifications.
Yeah, diploma would be fine.
You know, the necessary qualifications. So I'm not an authority on Raila Odinga's degree because it was done a long time ago, but we know definitely he had some qualifications. That is for sure.
Some.
Well, for him to work at a university, training people, especially in engineering, he needed to have some paperwork. You get? So what that paperwork is what he needs to be asked.
And for all these guys, Bichachi, all these guys, if someone today shows up and says, Bitok doesn't have a studio, it doesn't have a studio.
Yes.
Even if I would not say anything, you might show up and say, I've been there.
Yes.
I saw him, I've seen him doing this thing. Why is that all these guys have been accused of having all these things? There are no, hata classmate moja tu, ama walikufa wote.
You see,
Hata mmoja tu akuje tu aseme nilikuwa na mark.
Unajua, if you are Sudi who graduated from class 8 and 2 years later did your KCSE and all of those things, you know, hakuna student mwingine alikuona ukipita that fast through the academic thing. So
no, na pengine ulisoma private candidate, unajua si lazima ulienda shule with your classmates.
Yes.
Pengine ulisoma tu kwa nyumba, uliregister tu, ukasoma kwa hao, ukafanya mitihani, Mungu akakuonekania, and lo and behold. Yeah. No, but something I have to just register.
If we accuse you today of not being a magistrate, tumesikia, tumeleta hapa kama story. Tukasema jua alikuwa magistrate. If we were to accuse you today of not being a magistrate, of not ever having served, there are two people that might show up. An ex-convict who saw you in court.
We're actually sent to jail.
We sent to jail. Na asema, huyu mtu alinifunga. Huyo msichana, Joy, alinifunga. Ama wakili who are arguing cases before you. Ama magistrates, fellow magistrates that you are with.
Who are now judges.
Alive or death. Why is it that all these guys, they don't have people who can back them up?
No, the thing is this. When we as a society have decided to elevate papers to a level that doesn't make sense. And it's not just for political office that we're having this conversation. If you look at any government job right now, they don't look at experience in lieu of papers. So like I remember there's a time I was part of a panel when we were looking to fill one of the positions in government. So I was gazetted to be on the panel. And we were having people who had many years experience on the job. No guys who joined the ministry when they were, clerical and they've risen through the ranks with 20, 30 years in the service.
Experience, yes.
But because their papers were not saying masters, you've got some guys who are coming who are 32 years old and who are currently doing their PhD, who make the short list, but the other guys don't make the short list. And at that time, I remember in the panel when we were having the discussion, I kept telling them, but this is wrong. Because even if I apply to the UN or I apply to some international organizations, most of them will tell you, have a master's or experience equivalent. Yeah. So you would go with the, let's say even a diploma, a P1 certificate. But because you have been a teacher for 30 years, that is deemed to be schooling on the job.
Yes, apprenticeship.
So in Kenya, especially for government jobs, forget even about whittling down for parliamentarians. If you want to be a director in government now, you must have a master's. Forget about having a first degree. Now it's a master's. 3% imezunguka less than 1% of Kenyans. So we're getting to a place where government is being run by people who are really not representative of the demographic of this country, which in my opinion is wrong. Who can attest to their education? So for example, if I look at Honorable Raila, for example, first the genesis of this is a matter of the revolution eating its children. This thing made its way into the Katiba because when we were writing the Katiba in 2010, we didn't want Moi to find a way of coming in.
Yeah.
So we're writing stuff that we knew Moi did not have and he had no time to get.
Yeah.
So this degree thing to be president first came in at that
kufinya
time.
Moi.
Ilikuwa kujaribu kufinya Moi. Angalia inafinya kina nani sahi.
Yeah.
But you know, Raila, having been around for so long, having run since sijui lini, uambie watu Raila is not running. Unajua, this is not even a matter of Raila amesema majasoma. This is a matter for keeping Kenya safe. Juu ukisema tu say ati Raila na degree is not on the ticket. Unaona kama tutaenda kulala kwa nyumba leo jioni.
But the question is,
Si tutatoka hapa. Tutatoka hapa.
to your point, Joy, which degree would you give Raila Odinga?
Raila Odinga is the degree.
You get, as in,
They
you know,
said Baba doesn't need a degree.
Yes.
The degree needs Baba.
no, like seriously, if you study
No,
the life,
if you
listen,
study the life of Raila, it's a study in itself. It's
Raila,
a degree.
Raila Odinga.
You can get a degree in
Raila
biology.
Odinga should be a topic in Harvard, if you're honest. Listen, if you consider what the man has been able to do and achieve in his lifestyle,
And the longevity.
yes, and to do it
To be
without,
relevant cross-generationally.
and to do it without ever sitting on the seat of being a president and having the kind of power and influence and changed and framed our society as much as he has, come on. And you see, this is the other problem,
But then should we use the same standards
which is
then?
one
We
of
should
the
use the
things.
same standards.
One of the things.
Hakuna standard ni baba ni degree.
Yes. No, one of the things that we need to do urgently is there's a proposal in the Iebc agenda, and unfortunately that's the only one I can talk about because the other three candidates have not launched their manifesto. In the Iebc agenda, there's a line that says that they need to give shahada la jitihada, which is my favorite line, because it says they will take Gerald Bitok, who's been running a studio and running this show for X number of years, and let's give him a journalism degree because of the work he has done.
Aptitude.
You understand?
But that's not how it works, though.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
That's
They
how it
need
should
to-
work.
That's how it should work. Remember?
Joy, let me tell you.
I want my degree. I want my degree now.
Kim
No,
Kardashian.
there's a way around it, and what you're talking about, King, there's a way around.
I want
it.
my degree right now.
What universities do, and I think also PLO, that's why he got his PhD. What universities do, if you don't have, or either you don't have the aptitude or the time or whatever, for whatever reason, you cannot go through their ordinary coursework. What they do examine you in the areas
Yes.
where they would ordinarily examine you if you sat in class. And if you pass those papers, at the end of it, they actually go ahead to award you the degree, because as far as they're concerned, the knowledge is already within you. So for example, somebody like we are talking about now, Raila, as far as I'm concerned, it was birth certificate, vaccination certificate, masters. That's the bulk of what we can see.
Yes.
But you know, because he's Baba, we are not saying loudly, because he's our father, you don't go there. But tukisema tu kweli, ulikuwa unauliza classmates wa university, hata anza wa primo, sidhani wako. Lakini, you can see, like what we're saying with Mark, you can see his life. If there's somebody who has perfected Kenyan politics, inspiring generations, subsequent generations, other politicians come, flash in the pan, fizzle out. He has managed, even our children are captivated. There's a day I was talking about Sada, they were saying, Raila, and I was looking at Chris like, no, where did you get political? But even children are fascinated by it. So there should be the room for that. And even if you don't have the aptitude to go, the time to go to a university, but you have the aptitude, you should apply. Do the papers, do the research, publish, let people see. Because, for example, somebody like Sakaja right now, all the, you know, when you're applying for a judge now, they ask you for things that you have written and what. Yeah. He has sponsored private bills, he has done what. You know, now, when you do that, you should have somebody demonstrate capability. Because that's what we're interested in. We're interested in capability. And for me, I think the software of leadership is more important than the hardware. You need to care for people. You need to care for what they care for. You need to have a willingness to do what they need done. That, to me, is more important than a person who has read. Because people who have studied, quite frankly,
it's for example, let's take a real life example. Dr. William Ruto, he's a PhD in what?
I don't know.
Is it zoology?
It is.
And plant something.
Right? So, listen. The reason that we do not know is that PhD is thoroughly irrelevant in his aptitude to be a political head of this country. Let's be clear.
But in his own capacity.
You see, let me tell you, William Ruto can lead this country because he's had the experience. He's been a minister. He's been a minister. He's been a deputy president. He's been an MP. He's gone through the system. He understands it. So he is supremely more qualified than Mutai Ngunyi, who's a PhD in political science. Do you get what I mean?
Experience trumps papers.
Yes, you get. So we need to get to the point, honestly, Gerald, where we as a country realize the United States of America doesn't even have those qualifications for presidency. Right? You get. Because Trump was a danda. His classmates in university say the guy could not grasp issues, right? He survived university by the skin of his teeth. So if Trump could be president, and I'm not saying he was the best president, what we need to do is understand that we have a society to represent. Plumbers, for example, have a right to have a parliamentarian who is a plumber. Why? Because that guy uniquely understands what it means to be in the Juakali sector. You cannot, very few university graduates are in Juakali, right? So if you want someone to represent Juakali and the blue collar and white collar workers, you need someone who's cut from the same cloth. So if you get Mark BICHACHI, for example, and you tell him to represent pastoralists, how? I don't know how it is to move around with cows. I can't get one cow to go where I want it to go. So the guys...
No, we are laughing because we can relate to that comment.
I cannot relate.
We're laughing with you, not at you.
You know, Amaluya, maybe chicken. Maybe chicken I can try. But you see, the point is that our political arm needs to represent the people that vote for them. You need to feel like when you look at this person, when you see this person, they're going to pass legislations that we understand. But at the same time, we need to protect ourselves from stupidity, because also, if you do not have a grasp of issues, you could go to parliament and make a very local decision. Let me finish.
We were led by Mulumutisia and Sharif Nasir and Jenga Karume, the Minididi. And here we are.
No, but you're making my point for me. You're making my point for me. We don't want another Mulumutisia joy. Because listen, I don't have a problem with Mulumutisia not being educated. No, did you?
Atwanzi your story.
Atwanzi your maji. Au what? Matakwa yao. Yes. So you see what needs to happen. There needs to be an aptitude test. And I think there need to be two tests. Number one, they need to be tested on whether they understand what the national interests of this country are. Then number two, they need to be able to have a grasp of current issues. You understand? They need to sit down and be asked, what is the Constitution 2010? They need to sit down and be asked, what is an order paper? And asked. So they have basic aptitude that we know they're able to perform. Because there are people who have degrees who've gone to parliament and have never spoken for 5 years.
That is true. That is true. In fact, me, in a politician, I'm looking for something other than a degree. I'm looking for charisma. I'm looking for the moral uprightness. I'm looking for the willingness to put yourself out there. I'm looking for you connecting. I mean, you know why we got this wrong is when you have parliamentarians who intentionally build a tunnel under the road so they do not have to pass through their constituents as they go to their offices. Yes. Those are Negroes who should not be, pardon the French, who should not be parliamentarians. Why are you afraid of the people who have elected you? Yeah. If you're a real politician, you should be able to face them, to embrace them even, and say, you know what, come to my office. In fact, there should be a rule that they should live among the people, have an office among their people, and parliament should be once a month. So that you stay in the constituency more, that in fact do parliament via Zoom. You don't have to come to the house.
And if you go to Mukarabati's constituency, they are very happy. If you go to Sudi's constituency, they're happy they get CDF.
Yeah, Akina Josori, who has an office, you'll find him with his feet on the table. You need to love the people that you're leading.
Absolutely.
And that is why some people, for example, like you're saying with Sudi, in parliament, have you ever heard his voice?
No.
But you'll find
exactly.
Na anajua ena Kiingereza anajua akiweka hiyo flash disk iko blank.
Na kauliza Orengo swali, Orengo na hii Kiingereza yako tunapiganga bunge. Ni nini umefanya kwa constituency? Bado nangoja jibu. So for me, if I was looking for leaders, by the way, I I mean, degree, paper qualification will not be one of
But
so as long as you're exposed.
But there's something that Mark
and you
has
can have a
said.
conversation. Yes. I'm telling you, of course, to scare Matakoya.
No, there's something Mark has said that I think is important. We are not looking for people to represent us. We are looking for people to be representative of us. That's two different things. So somebody to represent you, it can be me coming and saying, you know what, I'm the better one of all of you. In this particular thing, I'm Gulliver, you guys are Lilliputs. Allow me to go and represent you because I am better than all of you, which is what this degree thing does. But when you have somebody who's representative of us, it means they're walking a mile in our shoe.
Yes.
They're not insulated from the consequences of their actions. They're driving on the same roads, living in the same estate. We know his mother, we know his father, we know where he grew up. That way, even how he represents us it resonates with what we need. Because what we have right now is many people who are representing us, but they're not representative of us. And they are not feeling what we are feeling. That's why we have a situation where when the country is bleeding, parliamentarians are happy saying, you know what, mileage imendaju, let us increase them. When we are telling Akina Wetangula, drive smaller vehicles because you know petrol is expensive. He says, do you think we are teenagers? Us guys who are teenagers don't drive cars.
Yes.
Them, they're teenagers drive cars.
Yes.
That's why he thinks a car that's less than 2,000 cc
That's
is
my
a teenager's
son's car.
car.
That's my son's car.
We need to have people who are not insulated from the consequences of
being
our
Kenyan.
life. Yes.
No.
So that even now when you're talking about the price of unga has reached 200 shillings, you don't know, because where you've reached now, your doctor has even told you go keto. You're eating meat and boga daily. You're not even eating ugali by the
meat,
way.
dry aged beef.
I'm telling you.
Yes.
Mature.
And you come up again.
Dry aged beef matured in our freezers. Mature. No. What do you mean mature?
See, mature.
Matured.
Yes.
Matured.
Yes, you need to. No, but
That's true.
You know what Joy is saying is critical because what I'll give you an example of the United States. And Joy said that people need to live among the people in the United States. When Senate or Congress goes to recess, you're supposed to go back to your county and you hold town halls. And people come and they insult you and they give you ideas and they praise you and all of those things, so that by the time you go back to the house, you know exactly what is happening to the people. The problem is that we have a voting population, we don't have an electioneering population. There's a difference. A lot of people in this country, the extent of their political activities on voting day, we do not participate.
You don't engage with them after.
And before. Because what should happen is before you choose to vote for an MCA MP, you should sit down and interrogate them.
Yeah.
Which is why town halls are a big part of American campaigning and much of the West as well. So you sit down and you ask Joy, you want to be my MP. Who is your mother? Where did you come from? How did you grow up? What do you eat at home? Which church do you go to? All of those things, because I want to see whether you represent my values, you have the same experience as me, etc., etc. Then when you go into, when you're campaigning, I'm like, you know what? I believe in Joy. Here's my 10 shillings, here's my 20 shillings, here's my whatever. Because he who pays the piper calls the tune. In this country, it is opposite. I'm paying you for your vote. So why should I listen to you? Because when I get to office, I paid for it.
See, that's why Joho says, "Mwanunua kama maka."
Exactly. So the thing is, if we are going to tackle these issues now, and we want to talk about serious issues, number one, Kenyans must become electioneers, because you and I cannot afford to run for MP in Nairobi. Right? You can imagine the amount of money that Jalas forgot in his car, that two people stole money from Jalas's car, and it was enough to disappear from this country.
Imagine.
So you can imagine how much money that was. So
that house Galu disappeared with 104 million.
Exactly. How? Why? Because you remember the survey that was done last year, that to run for MCA in Nairobi, you need how much? 20 million.
Wow.
Unatoa wapi?
But
why should you go and use 20 million though?
No, but that's the point. The point is that our electioneering process is upside down. So we need to get to the point where I believe in Joy, I remove my money, I give Joy to campaign, so that when Joy goes into office...
No, even I go and campaign with her, campaign for her.
Yes, and when she gets into office and she's not doing what I paid for, I can go like, well, next time you're not getting my money. Next time, I'm not supporting you. And that's how you should be. But in Kenya, they know whether you believe, politicians know, whether you believe in me or not, I'll show up with a bag of money and you will be there in my trailer saying so and so, Tosha. We need to start having Kenyans who go through the whole electioneering process and not just Kenyans who appear on voting day.
Okay. And closing up on the degree conversation, finally wametufikia. Wamesema hata sisi ambao tunafanya ukarabati hapa online, we must have degrees. Things are going to get very relevant. The creative industry, I think you saw that. The proposal, the Gazette notice by the Ministry of Sports. Wizara ya mchezo iko na mchezo mingi sana. Sana. When you talk about...
Ndio kama ndio wizara ya mchezo.
Kwa sababu kuna mchezo. Kwa sababu we are talking about a country that should be encouraging innovation and people going out there to invent and do things that they do. But then again, we are coming with all these bottlenecks. Are they really necessary? Are we just becoming a country of laws and regulations and bottlenecks? Can we have just a liberal country?
That's the problem when you have an elitist leadership, because they don't beat to the heartbeat of the people. So I was listening to, I forget what his name is, but I think it's Dr. Moore or someone who's in charge of this ICT guys. And he was saying when they're looking for guys to innovate and to technovate, he goes to Nairobi Garage and other hubs where these young kids are coding and they're doing all these things that are so cutting edge. They're even before, they're ahead of the curve, so to speak. And he made a direct appeal to His Excellency, the President, and said, look, don't assent to the ICT bill. The ICT, Nini, is one of those things that's led by creatives. It's not led by Wasomi. Akina Bill Gates and the others. That's why they drop out of school. Because it's a sort of thing where you demonstrate ability by what you do. It's not by what somebody tells you and what you learn. My brother is a mechatronic engineer, and he was in JKU Art. And on the side, of course, you're doing stuff online and whatnot. And you're saying the stuff that they were studying in class, that which gave him his degree, even by the time he was learning, it was decades behind the technology. True. So for many of them, they were doing it to get the degree, but they were doing their own other stuff on the side, such that the curriculum is not even fit for purpose. The way ICT changes, it mutates so fast that you cannot create a syllabus. No, you can't create a syllabus to be teaching. Unless that syllabus is being changed by the day. Tomorrow something else has. So we have to come to a place where we stop looking at this thing of degree. There's this fascination with papers in this country. We have to exercise the spirit of the fascination with papers. I'm not minimizing learning, but learning should be something that is not it's not a hindrance. It should be a door. Enabler. Yes, it should be an enabler. But the way we're using it now, we're using it to put barriers to progress for people, and it's not fair.
And Joy, just to give positive testimony to what Joy is saying, I happened to be the best student in South Africa in my Java exam in 2003.
And Java is not coffee.
And Java, not the coffee.
Just to clarify.
Java, the programming language. The other day, my son is learning coding. So I'm like, I got this.
I'm the best.
Daddy got 93% in his Java exam. Let's do this. Huh? I looked at that new coding thing. I was like, what's going on? Now there is a Python, there is Scratch, there is what. You see, the truth of the matter is that ICT is a disruptive technology. The more disruptive you are, the more you succeed. So, for example, the guy who started Airbnb was not a very good hotelier, but he disrupted the hotel industry. Same thing with Uber or whatever it is. It is a disruptive technology.
It's global.
And one of the things that we must understand and appreciate is success in the ICT industry is usually for people who are looking at it from the outside. Because the professionals in ICT are trained in maintaining what is there. The guys who come into it and succeed are the innovators who come in looking at it from a totally different direction. And this is the problem not only with ICT, but with how Kenya in general looks at innovation. I'll give you an example. Remember the guy who tried to create a flying machine? And he was stopped by the Kenya Aviation.
Because he did not have a license to fly.
Because he didn't have licenses. Right? There's a company that's supposed to be producing drones, and they have to fly all the way to Zambia to test their drones because in Kenya we still have rules. Remember the other day, Kenyans were complaining about a kid driving his dad's car in a parking lot, and then we forget Michael Schumacher started driving when he was 7 years old.
No. There's a kid who landed at
we were so mesmerized.
He flew solo.
16-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a kid who flew solo.
Exactly.
Other guys' kids fly solo, and us guys we are afraid of kids
but
driving
you see,
the car park.
that's the thing, because there's also a culture we have in this country. We have a culture of punishing the next generation.
Making them wait their turn by force and by fire.
You know, it is why the Engineers Association, to get the name engineer, it's a problem. It is why you go to LSK and 2/3 of their students fail every time they sit their exams. Not because they're dandas, but because you've decided 2/3 must fail all the time. We have a culture. What is that God that used to make people kill their children?
I forget, but I know what you're saying.
Molech. It is called the spirit of Molech. That you have a problem with the next generation succeeding too fast. You feel pain when you...
Like Herod, you hear there's a king born, kill all the children.
Yes, kill all the children. Because you want to be the engineer. You don't want there to be a flood of engineers. You want to be the advocate. You don't want a flood of advocates. And this is the ideology that exists even in universities. Look at how masters should... not even masters, even degrees. Even degrees, how many people are crying when they're doing their degrees? That you went to school, then the teacher just decides you're cut for semester 1, year 1 is missing. Now you need to resit the entire course.
How did I get to year 4
Yes.
if I didn't do year 1?
Imagine. And
if it's missing, fill the blank with something that makes sense.
And these are the issues, that we have a Molech spirit. There's a demon in this country that likes to really make it hard for people to succeed. There's a friend of mine who's doing his PhD in Kenya. When he started his PhD in Kenya, it took him so long. So he decided, you know what, as I'm waiting for this, I'm going to go to South Africa and I'm going to do my PhD there. So he went and started another PhD, finished it before he finished the Kenyan one.
It is true. Forget about PhD. Like if you're trying to do an LLM, a master's in law, the frustrations in doing an LLM, many people end up doing something. Like me, I'm not doing my master's in law, doing my master's in leadership. Nakwambia, because you get to a place where you're like, okay, I love the law, but do I love it that much? I mean, is it a marriage? Is it a marriage? But also, what Mark has said about punishing the next generation is something that even I am learning with my own children. These guys are born ready.
Yes.
When they start, they start 0 to 60, 3.5. By the time he's 5 years old, the stuff that he's doing, me when I was 5 years old, man, I was eating mapera and falling out of trees. Gabisa, and the problem with this now is I am unable to grasp how fast that they're moving, and so I think it is appropriate parenting for me to slow them down a little bit. We were having a discussion with my son. He's showing me TikToks of his friends, his age mates, who are driving their mother's car. They're being taught in the Esto and being taught you can get, they're sent to the mall and back. Like, even me, I need to learn. And I was like, what? Until you're 18. Then later I thought about it, was like, now, even if I collapse in the house now and the father is not there.
How will you go to hospital?
This fellow, the best he can do is call an Uber. Yeah. I looked, was like, you know what? Actually, I'm the one who's holding him back rather than releasing him. We need to come to a place where we stop cutting ourselves off at the knees. But one thing that also, as a society, we need to do is we need to learn to protect our innovators. I mean, if you're in the States and you do something and you create this water bottle, now it looks like this, you go ahead and remove these stripes and you make it straight, and you go and register a patent, or you go and register an innovation. It is protected, ab initio. Mark is an entrepreneur. Ask him. When he tried to do things that are innovative, they're out of the box. The vikwasos, it's almost punishing you for being innovative. It's like you must use what is there. If not, just suffer in silence. We need to also come up with a regimen telling young people, if you create an M-Pesa platform, we have enough that protects your intellectual property that you'll reap a benefit from it. If you create something in fintech, if you create something in this coding maneno, we will be there to back you up. Look at countries like India. Look at countries like Pakistan. Those guys actually have developed as a nation. by allowing people to be innovative and keeping out the outside markets when they come to attack them, saying, no, actually, we thought of that past. Like, no, as far as you're concerned, it's happening in India. So this is, and the Indians are already at a market to take you forward. We have to encourage people to keep innovate, creating. Because I'll tell you something, in my opinion, I have some conspiracy theory part of me that believes part of the West strategy is to keep us learning things that are obsolete because they need to keep 2 steps ahead of us. But as far as I'm concerned, if we look at all trends, by the turn of the century, all of them will be in population decline. Only Africa will be producing people to work in this earth. We need to start getting even intellectually ahead of the curve because before long, we will be their presidents. We will be their engineers. We will be the guys leading them. They don't want us to get there, but we have to get there because it's a situation. We have to get it
by fire, by time,
it's a situation where now we will be this elephant that's being led by a little child.
Yes.
We have to find our strength. And in finding our strength, our governments have to unshackle us and to allow people to thrive.
Joy, just allow me to digress because it's something that's been irking me about our Africanness, and it's been in the news for the last 1 month. The UK is deporting people to Rwanda, to apply for asylum. Now, what they're not saying, it is only brown and black people. Okay. There's no Ukrainian being brought to Africa. So the people who are undesirable in Europe are still us black people. And I'm at the point where I'm tired of black people going on a march trying to say, stop racism.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. I'm tired of that narrative.
Next time you start telling me to pray for Ukraine. Yeah. Okay, sorry, no, we should pray for Ukraine. But to me, I'm like, you know what? I'm praying. To be honest, I'm praying for Ethiopia. I'm like, you know what? Let Ethiopia and let us get in peace. Me, I'm not praying for Ukraine. I'll just be honest. I mean,
no, let me tell you, the truth is, we need to flip that narrative.
Yeah.
We need to have a black nationalism and black pride.
United States of Africa.
Yes, let's get to the point where they come to Africa and they say, oh God, those Africans are so discriminatory against us. Yes, because simply the only way to win a narrative war is when you have your own narrative. Hii mambo ya kuambia watu ati when mweusi ka shetani, right? Alafu mweupe ka an angel. That does not work.
But that's what I'm saying. By the turn of the century, by the sheer force of our numbers, we are taking over this world. As Africans, we have to start thinking as the next...
Joy,
because I'll tell you something.
Me and Malcolm X, same WhatsApp.
Right now in Scandinavian countries, all of them have got population growth of 1.9 children or less per woman. What that means, more people are dying than are being born. There'll come a time, you see, like now the way Canada, they're inviting all the... America, if you've got papers, you're going. UK, if you're a nurse, you're going. It's because they don't have enough people to even keep their economies alive.
Yes.
I'm telling you, zaneni wengi, what's out to train wasome na wakienda.
But if we do so without a sense of pride.
Right now in Minnesota, one of the councillors there is Mkisi, because Wakisi wamejaa Minnesota until wameacha kusota, sasa wameingia kwa serikali. There's a woman in Australia who became a senator. There's the Somali refugee who's now a senator in the States. We are taking over the world. If we don't start seeing our children, say wanasema tirudini Rwanda, tutakuja. We will regroup, we will restructure, we'll refocus, and we will relaunch.
But you see, that's the thing. We need to actively think about it. I've joined the Malcolm X school of thought, where I'm not demonstrating anymore for someone not to be racist to me. Me, if you're racist, I will do to you what I learned in South Africa. I'll beat you. Because, no, seriously. No.
Anyway, I'm a lawyer. Ukipigana nipigane.
But if you ever hear I beat someone up, just know I was at a restaurant and they served a white person before me and I came before them. I'm beating them up. Because we need to get to the point. No. No, we need to get to the point where this black skin has some pride. No, for real. You try go to Europe and cross one of their
But
lines.
I think for us to get there as well, we need to start really interrogating the software part of how we are assimilated and programmed. For instance, every single morning, an African child, especially Kenya, wakes up at 4 a.m. to go and study the challenges of the agrarian revolution in Mesopotamia in 1752.
I remember that.
And in another world, a Chinese child is at home. I'm studying how to make phones, create phones, make drones, and all these other things. In Kenya, grown-up is told not to fly a drone.
Yes.
I mean, I think we need to start to really interrogate how we are programmed as Africans, and whether really, even as we're talking about all these things that we are taking up the world, do we have the soft power to take it up? Are we being given, even giving ourselves an opportunity to have them? Because when you look at the CBC, I wanted to imagine that CBC, when you talk about CBC curriculum, is it competence-based?
Yeah, competence-based curriculum.
It should be about useful things. Yes. But now I find kids rokotaring makaratasi on the road, they are making puppets, they are creating all these funny things. While it seems like a good way to start your education, then it should be, I feel it should be more about preparing the child to be self-reliant in terms of creating the creative industry and compete again as a child. In Canada, for instance, I went to China. And I was shocked, these phones that we buy, the Chinese phones, those zingine zinakaa kubwa kama radio call, hizi zingine zinaitwa these these small phones. When they started off, kids are making them as an experiment. Just somewhere, the kids, you find 3 kids, they're creating these things. So I think even as we prepare and really excite ourselves about taking over the world, it's time we start interrogating the soft powers that are being put into us. There's no way a child can wake up to go and study an insect at 5 a.m. No, but parts of an insect.
The thing I like about CBC is it helps our children to have an awareness of you don't just need mind skills, you also need hand skills. Now, every Israeli child, every Jewish child is always taught 2 ways. The teaching is always two ways. So you will learn the letter of the law, you will learn the letter of whatever it is. That one is a given. But every single Jew also has a hand skill that they do. They can fix a watch.
But we are not balancing. There's a problem.
They can fix a watch. They can do farming. They can do what? So they always learn 2 things. So there's what you've learned the law, but you're also a good baker, or you can mend shoes, or you can make. They always have a hand skill and a mind skill.
So are you balancing the mind
with
skill?
us? For a long time, it's been the mind skill. That's why you find you've got many electrical engineers, but not enough electricians. So like you, Gerald, when you're trying to make your studio. I'm sure you kissed a few frogs when you're trying to find somebody who will do it just right, that it works properly. You wasted a lot of money. You get to a place where you almost want to go and learn to do it yourself. You go online and say how to set up your own studio, because you give people work and what comes out is substandard. So that's a bit where I like CBC, because it gives our children that thing of working with their hands. But over and above that, like you said, it has to move from just doing, mundane tasks to a level where you use that skill to create. Because we can't just be reproducing, we recreate. So for example, let me just stick with the example of China. China...
Can you repair a watch?
Me repair a watch for what? Let's go buy a new one. I have got a grave for watches.
Can you change batteries in a remote?
I can only change a tire. But batteries in a remote, I can. But in China, you will go and... I haven't been, but I've watched some videos online and I've been told by those who've gone, you'll go and see a car that driving by looks exactly like a BMW X5. Yes. And then at the back you realize, no, you didn't have an X5. Because somebody has taken upon himself to take apart an X5 and put it back together again. So tomorrow, even if you tell them, we're not selling you any more of our X5s, they'll be like, that's fine. They'll make themselves one. That's the mind shift Africa needs to get to, because we are happy to be net consumers. We are happy to import rice. We've got plenty of arable land that we're not using, but we are happy to import rice. We are here crying because there's war in Ukraine, so we can't get enough wheat.
Yes.
Why can we not get enough wheat? And Narok still exists.
Yes.
But we look at it, we've made it such that it's cheaper to bring in eggs from somewhere else than from to enable China. Farmers here to produce. I mean, why are we eating fish from China?
From China.
Why are we eating fish from? Why are we eating fish from China?
Why?
But we've got a county where somebody will go and throw fingerlings in the river and say that was a fishery restocking project.
They flew off to another country.
No, they went downstream.
Why did you collect less revenue?
We have to get to a place where we actually take pride in creating something. And that's what I was saying. When you create something, it needs to give you value. It needs to bring back.
Rolling on in 15 minutes.
Let me just... piggyback on what Joy is saying. I said before that our leaders need to be trained on our strategic interests as a country. When I'm talking about strategic interests, agriculture is a big one.
It is.
Because we may have the best army in the region, But if Uganda closes its border and does not give us food, our army will starve.
Uganda and Tanzania, the time they refuse to sell us tomatoes.
So let's be very clear that in this country, we do not think ahead. Okay. This country, we've decided buying land and subdividing land is a good idea. Okay? We've decided it's a good idea. So people have land in Narok, Akakwata, and 8th, whatever. Right? It means that
Aptitude are sponsoring the shows. Chome sana.
Oh, it's chome sana. Wacha chome kidogo. You know, we've decided that we've created an artificially huge real estate business at the expense of our food security, at the expense of our national interests. What needs to happen, and this is what is missing from this campaign, is politicians who will make the tough decisions and say, you know, if you want to go subdivide land into little quarters, go to Moyale where we have dry land and try and do that, because maybe then we'll make a city. But if you're doing it in Narok, in the Kalenjin Highlands, you're doing it in Western Kenya, surely how is Western Kenya being subdivided? So we need to get to a point where we can actually make the tough decisions this country needs to make. We need 1,000 acres of land so that we don't need to beg the Ukrainians who are still at war to give us wheat. We need to get to the point where the price of cooking oil is not tripling in value because we do not have a single palm oil plantation in this country. It's all imported. So now we run out of dollars. Now we can't have cooking oil. It is a very stupid thing. But the problem is we do not sit down and think we need to re-engineer our society. We need to think. The reason why India is successful, reason why South Korea is successful, the reason why China is successful is someone sat down and decided to make the hard decisions on behalf of that country. And that is what I'm pushing for, that we need to have leaders who make the hard decisions. And which is why I have problems with what I've had with the two top politicians. None of them is willing to say, you know what, I'm putting my foot down. Right? From today, the smallest amount of land you can own in these areas is going to be 5 acres. It's in our constitution. It's in our constitution.
Yeah, in fact, part of Japan's trajectory to growth was the land consolidation property, where the government ensured that large swaths of land are not only producing food, but those people who've been moved out of that land, you create a factory where they are hired to value add, so that by the time it's being exported, it's a higher quality product than what we have. Here we want guys to still go to with pans to get 2 grams of gold.
Do you know, Joy,
it's a heartbreak.
Just to emphasize what Joy is saying, Japan has specialized so much. There are mangoes, maembe, that you can buy 2 mangoes for $4,000. 2. That's how good the agriculture is.
As in they've refined the taste.
So quality, specific that you'll pay $2,000 per mango.
Just sit down and have a
just looking at the way you're describing the mango, I feel like I'm eating it.
Let me tell you, have you ever had?
No, it is true. Even strawberries. I saw those strawberries that they've actually engineered it that people are paying because it's picked at just surprise. If you take a bite, you sing hallelujah.
Have you ever had Wagyu beef? Have you ever had Wagyu beef, the Japanese beef?
Yes.
My friend, that thing per kilo is 10,000 bob. Per kilo.
Nyama.
Beef. Yangombe. Beef. 10,000 bob a kilo. And by they don't joke. The point I'm making here.
And you need to add, and it's that expensive because there's somebody who's willing to pay for that beef.
Yes.
For one meal.
Yeah.
Because they know the value.
Watu wako. Kuna pesa. Ni sisi hatujajua kutafuta pesa.
And the issue is, and when it boils down to it, and I hope leaders are listening to me, the next, you see, Uhuru and Kibaki, in my view, had it easy. Because the next steps for the developing of our country were obvious. It was roads, it was infrastructure, it was airports, it was all of those things. Sawa. We are almost done with those things. The question that we've got to ask ourselves is, what kind of society and economy are we going to engineer so that we can get into the next stage of Kenya's development? And it is not going to be done with politics as usual. It has to be done by radical thought. We've got to say, for example, Kenya is going to be a technological country. If it's going to be a technological country, then all our schools need to have motherboards where kids can start making robots. They can start doing what? You get all the
inputs have to be zero rated so that they're available in plenty and good quality.
Yes, if it's agriculture, we need to make sure that all our kids know about farming. they're planting things, they're growing things. So we need to make a decision about where we're going and make sure we go that direction.
All right. Finally, sasa tufunge na siasa, tunafunga kwa dakika 10 ambazo zinakuja. First, the state of the cost of living. Now we're talking about fuel being at 159. It's a challenge. No government is limited. 1.59. Kipchoge.
Ineos.
Ineos. And we are quiet. Tuko sawa. Kwa story nyingine, the two camps seems to be having a problem. There seems to be some rocky boats. Pala Azimio pia kinaumana. Kisii is it's getting very volatile. Coast pia is getting very volatile. Kenya Kwanza, Kiambu, juzi Moses Kuria na kina nane, Kabogo na Wamatangi wanakanyagana. Okay.
You know that,
ya mwisho, Iebc. Watu watatupea election ya ukweli ama ni sinemare? Joy.
You know, like for me, part of what is disheartening about what we are seeing with the Dispute Resolution Committee is that as we are doing all these shenanigans, trying to settle scores, trying to knock off opponents from pedestals and all this stuff, is we're actually compromising the time that IBC has to prepare for elections. By now, they ought to have settled this thing of names. By 30th June, we ought to have seen the sample ballot papers. But here we are still talking about, birds of the air and beasts of the field. Are those important conversations? Of course, they're important conversations. But the way we have worked our timelines, maybe we need to work our timelines such that these conversations are had 2 years prior to presenting papers and stuff like that. Because where we are as a country, IBC must do a good job. For them to do a good job, time is an invaluable component. What we are doing now is wasting a lot of valuable time. It is spending time on things that IBC really ought not be spending time on. And when you're asking, will they do a credible job? As it is, we have already seen the KPMG report the other day, when they're saying they have all this mop-up to do. They missed a deadline. They were supposed to have given us the cleaned up list by 6th of June. Now they're talking about the 23rd, I think, of June is when they're going to, or 21st, I forget which. We are looking at now even the disputes at the committee. Usually you barely have 10 disputes going on and they're usually finished way in advance. Now we are cutting it to the wire. It looks like we'll go all the way till tomorrow for this dispute committee to finish. Most of them are sitting late into the night trying to finish all these things. I've walked a mile in that shoe. You get to a place where even the quality of work is compromised because of the sheer volumes. Okay. We have to come to a place as a country where we enable the IBC to do what we want the IBC to do. And the way we are taking it now, if the IBC get to a place and they tell us, you know what, we wanted to do a good job, but we couldn't because this and this and this and that was done out of time. We can't even tell them, by the way, we don't know what you're talking about. We can all see how we are hamstringing the IEBC. So in my opinion, what we talk about, and even the disputes and then we change the political parties law so close. Everybody's getting to these coalitions and they don't know what they're getting in for. So guys in Kenya Kwanza, theirs is a coalition of political parties. Meaning your party has to look for space and the other parties. Now you hear Kina Moses Kuria complaining. I'm like, look, you guys are still Tujibebe. You are still Chama Chakazi. In this is UDA. You're all in competition. When you say UDA candidates are being favored, what did you expect? UDA is still a party in competition with you, even though you're in the same coalition. Then with Azimio, Azimio now is there. Them, they have become a coalition party. So that means what you had as individualistic in your own turf, when gone. You get into Azimio now, uko kwa jumuiya. So if you're told your area is owned and it's for this party, you say, yes, sir. Now unanyenyekea Mungu akutumie. But we did it so recently. Nobody, principle knows ya Mungu. That's where you find there is no time. People didn't take time to understand what they're getting in for. And all of us are in all these shocks. Our politicians have to stop this thing of changing the rules last minute. Kriegler told us it's not a good idea. I don't know why our politicians don't understand. It is not a good idea to change the rules, to shift the goalpost too close to an election. Because if we want credible, easy, verifiable, all these other things, elections, we have to respect timelines and we have to plan our things in advance. This ambushing we like doing to each other is honestly bad political hygiene, in my opinion. It's bad manners.
So do you think we're going to get a credible election? Free and fair, credible and very... Not just something that looks like...
We will get something that's the best that IBC can offer. And in my opinion, if it happens to be clean as a whistle, it will be nothing short of a miracle.
Okay. Mark BICHACHI.
You know, I agree with Joy when she talks about the state of coalitions right now. We need to understand that Kenya Kwanza is more UDA than it is anything else. And that's just the reality. And UDA will do its best to ensure that it's its candidates who win in competition, even with Mudavadi's ANC. You remember Mudavadi complaining some time back about ANC being encroached on, in competition with Tujibebe, in competition with Chama Chakazi, in competition with all of those things. That is what will happen. And that's the problem of how the coalition has been made within Kenya Kwanza. The Azimio coalition will have a similar problem, but slightly different, because Azimio is a coalition party. The coalition party NEC, the executive of it, will make those decisions. Why? Because it only makes sense. If for example, you're in a county where you've got 3 Azimio candidates and 1 UDA candidate, it does not make sense, because obviously you'll be beaten, right? Because the 1 UDA candidate has a consolidated vote and the 3 of you are splitting votes. So this is just politics happening. I don't think any of these guys are in particular crisis. I just think it is the politics of the day. And that's what will happen. And I think these forms of coalitions and coalition government will continue, not just now. I think it's going to be a permanent fixture in our electoral cycles as a country. So I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's going to cost the different people, because I think Kabogo, Moses Kuria, etc. will split the votes and then probably give the upper hand to Jubilee, unless some of them step down. But that's the nature of politics.
Jubilee or UDA?
Yeah, in terms of Iebc, I have to be very careful. And the reason why I have to be very careful is, Gerald, I produced a documentary the other day, and it's going to air this weekend on KTN. And one of the things that I learned is that we need to really work on creating institutional trust in our country. Kenyans do not trust our institutions, and because of that, Kenya becomes a very volatile thing. So I have to say that whereas I agree that there are certain red flags that we need to be concerned about, I do not think we are at a crisis point yet with the Iebc. I think there is still a chance that they can pull off a free, fair, and credible election. And the reason why I think so is a lot of the things that Justice Maraga and team had said they need to fix, they've actually fixed. They've done a lot of work in terms of making sure the process is right, in terms of making sure the candidates are vetted right and things like that. And that we have to give it to them. In as much as it's taken longer, they're actually taking steps in doing the right thing, and that we need to commend them for.
All right. I'll get with the comments very quickly. To Manu, what is the point of going to school if we don't have one? Okay. Roger Siago Wavinya, 10 months na mimi niko 50 ya Kenya haki. Rao worked at university, trained people. You can be a lab assistant, no? Okay. Anne Muli, great contribution by Joy MDIVO.
Hi, Anne.
Are we also allowed to do that to her? You're the only person who can chum-chum, or you can all chum-chum.
And tunatoka mbali.
Kwanza sahi ndio
Those are people who need me on 0.5 GB.
Okay. Manu K, this is crazy. If someone has a degree, or she doesn't have to court to prove it. If you have it, then prove it. Give us the classmates and professors. Okay, easy. Hakuna mambo ya kwenda kotini.
No, but I thought proof of a degree is the certificate. Sasa, these days proof of a degree is come with your classmates and lecturers.
No, mesema sasa, kwa nini unaenda kotini? Utuonyeshe degree yako.
Si aliwapatia degree. Sasa mkasema, we see the degree, but where was the learning? Show us the learning. Somebody should give Baba a motor to rewind. Then we know that Kodi is an engineer.
I have seen a tweet here with Raila visiting his alma mater. Yeah.
Alikuwa ametembea. Unajua hata mimi naweza tembea.
Hata mimi naweza nenda nikatembea UN Harvard. Nipige picha nje Harvard.
I'm glad to see my former classmates because they're not there to deny anyway. If you took a picture in 1963, chances are those guys are already kaput. Or they don't even understand what's going on. Ombachi, the degree needs Baba. Okay. Just a degree, akisimama hivyo. Baba hasn't done anything for Kenyans, at least after I was born. Okay. Okay, Mark, what's the story? And what Rao has been able to do is been able to do that because of his name. Kugandamiza Nyanza to occult and conmanship. People bleed each other, each election. Okay, sorry, but nothing to admire there. Wacha ende home sasa. Okay. Danny Onduko, and Rela should be signing degrees for other people. Baba the fifth, okay? Takes Ken's ever Annex Eldoret is watching Asante. Manu, Kenya isn't America. Let's follow the law, okay? Grace Minor, that's why we need Asla Nation. Rao's reputation shouldn't be a master key. Matiba did most and didn't get to lead. Fear of his Rao influence to bring violence should not be in the drive in politics in Kenya. Why should other Kenyans be more Kenyans than others? If Rao runs, Sakaja should be on the ballot as well. Okay. As Never and Bichachi logged in Santa, I think Mike Bichachi is coming back to the person we once loved. Reasoning almost left him during BBI. Now you can lead the masses. Sasa wakubali mambo ya Mark Bichachi finally. Amerudi kama roja Mark Bichachi alikuwa movement. Manu Kechi bwana, let's don't even compare America with Kenya. America is way far in terms of politics. Nasema we need degrees in Kenya. Brian Shell anasema show iko moto. Daniel Koriri, Gerald, we have brilliant tackler today. Bichachi and Joy. Uliza Bichachi, what went wrong with BBI? He was really a good disciple for the same. Okay. Atuambia kuliraja na BBI. Lakini baba amesema rege imechukua break inarudi. Anasema mpende usipende rege inarudi. Cleveland Otieno, degrees are not necessary. Remember there was a time apprenticeship programs meant something. Okay. Obed King Musumbi, I told you the show will be great because of these great people. Distinctly learning that we need leaders who are not representative of us, not to represent us. Okay. That's a good one. Obed Musumbi, interestingly, the lower house in the US is called the House of Representatives, not representers. Okay. They understood this thing long time ago. Okay. Nicholas Kipto, some lovely show. Stephen Malika, great show. Thank you. Nikki K.A., the show is informing, man. Okay. And some less than drop school. Okay. On the Nikki K.A. and some on the issue of degree, it's not a must have. Where would us on the creative entertaining industry go? Would we engage in crime now that we have been denied the flow to do our legit things? Very good question. I mean, that is that's quite a very important question. Vivian Gogo, good to see you. Amazing show today, Gerald Bito. Asante sana, Vivian. Adan Korir, yes, Bichachi ICT is disruptive. It has completely outclassed ICT CS, Mr. Joe Musheru. Okay. Guys, what if ever a kid is given an opportunity to join high school, college, or university? It's really hard in Kenya. You'll need to talk money. Okay. Mera, but Mark, see your spirit ya Molek, ndio Uhuru ako nayo. He wants kutupanga by making it hard for Ruto's generation to take over. Uhuru instead went and collected an old man. And collected an old man who can barely articulate. He's tired and barely awake in meetings and rallies. Okay.
Mtashanga. But Raila Kiti mtajua how sleepy he is. Mtashanga.
You know, people are really
underestimate this. I don't know ajifanya tu iko hivi.
Kevin White, I'm liking this conversation. Nikomoto. Rogers Yago, walai haki ya Mungu. Mesopotamia bro. Alafu nataka nikuwe pilot. Imagine. Manu Kenya says, oh yeah, now you're really talking. Now keep Melly. And that's why we are becoming Mesopotamic. Okay. I keep Kibo. Jelo Bito quoting from 5 Arkansas Marekani. CBC is a scam. That's Bill Gates' idea so that he can sell Microsoft product. In my opinion, CBC was not implemented in the right way. Okay. Grace Minor, farmers are given a hard time producing.
Hey, Grace.
Brokers make triple deals of produce they didn't cater for. E.g., potato farmers can buy a plate of chips in 5-star hotel, by the way. And there was an old man who was asking a question. And it's interesting, the questions that common Kenyans ask. So there's this old man where we got from Tetu in Nyeru the other day. And he was asking
the tackler jana?
Yes, the tackler of yesterday. And he said, when I was coming, he went with his son to have tea. And he paid 50 shillings for a cup. And he was asking in the village for a whole liter of milk undiluted. I cannot even pay 39 shillings. I mean, he's asking for a cup of tea that you've diluted water.
Or he produces milk.
Yes,
he can't get 39 for a liter
he's saying, I can't understand.
Of whole milk.
He says, I cannot understand. How is it that I cannot fetch even 39 shillings?
For a liter of raw milk before the cheese and the butter has been taken out.
It's very important to really educate our farmers on value chains. Because the thing is, they said at the beginning of the last century, that the difference between many people there'll be two kinds of people, those who understand compound interest and those who don't. In the world today, the guys who understand value chains make more money than the producers.
Okay. All right. Agulaga, there's no need for a degree in politics because in politics it's about how you make decisions and governance, not about a degree. Wangari Kare Muliro, Joe Mudivo, you are right. We are wasting time. Iebc should have done this, but I blame the Elections Act and the way it was designed. Manuke Nasema Kenyans need to stop all these shenanigans, all these political decisions. Decisions should be done away before the election. I agree with you. Joy, this is a mind we should have. Great. Okay. Oliver Kiproti, my sister Joy, no need of Kenyan surrender land. If government will subsidize farm commodities like fertilizer, will produce the best. Zema, don't say politics of the day. It's of the nation. Let's help Kenya. Sena wako, Gerald, people should stop questioning the genuinity of our whole enigma. Baba the fifth, Salimia Mark. Okay. Caleb, my education is paramount. Jimmy Gakio, can't debate. They say I to Mark B. Okay.
Fan club ndo hiyo, my friend.
Caleb Mike anasema, on the issues of academic papers, I have no sympathy for anyone. For the sympathizers, I can say you have never sought a job anywhere, even cleaning job. You will be asked to produce your certificate of Kenya, which should be KCSE. Why should we sympathize with this man who had all the opportunity to learn? Hata kwa ofisi yake ukienda kutafutia kazi, atakuuliza iko wapi certificate? Iko wapi certificate iko wapi? Aya, on YouTube, Alan Kogo, good morning, happy Friday. Morning, ladies and gentlemen, happy Friday. Everyone have a great and blessed weekend. Happy talking to fans. We talked to Asante Sana, Pastor Daniel Prince official. Good morning, good people. Nice conversation, Asante Sana. David Akero. Morning, Gerald. We don't need degrees. As students work for students who in turn work for politicians controlled by criminal networks that probably never went to school. Okay, what a chain. All right, Joan Jagi, I'm loving the conversation, GB. Good morning to you, my brother. Salimia to Canada. Sally Roti, good conversation. Atticus now from the UK. Good morning, Bito. Good morning to you. Unfortunately, in Kenya, the law is optional. Instead of speculating, why not demand evidence and let it speak for itself? Guesswork is no work. Raila doesn't have the same influence since the handshake. Many don't trust him anymore. On technology, I agree with the guest. Government regulation is not good. Michael Wawen, wow, I like the conversation. Victor Ondicho, that Molech spirit is very much alive at Iebc. Shindwa kabisa. Atticus, now it's a good point, Joy. By 2010, almost half of all humanity will be 2100. Almost all humanity will be Africans. Akuna mchezo. We Africans must know we are our only friends.
Yeah,
everyone else wants to eat from us. Pray for Ethiopia and other African countries. Let others worry about themselves. For Africans to rise, we must first clean up our own house, and corruption must be removed by the people. There is so much wealth for us to tap into. I like that. I have a mind skill, an art skill. Wheat used to be grown in Uasin Gishu during the colonial era. Then it changed to maize. Na ni kweli hapa mahali tuko kwetu Uasin Gishu to limit tena ngano because the cost of producing wheat is so expensive.
It's expensive.
It doesn't make sense even when you're selling it. So it's getting crazy every other time. The government should be an enabler. BC Adu and South Tanzania has done it. Banned export of maize. David Tarus, now this is the conversation we need. Good job, GB and team. Gentlemen, lady and gentlemen. Your tackle of the day.
Kuna tackle of the day sasa. I hadn't thought that far.
Ile ya kugonga ya mwisho. Kama bado hujafikiria, wewe kadhaa unafikiria hiyo amefika, iko wapi tackle yako ya siku?
I think the thing that I need to remind those who are listening is Kenya has a vision 2030 and we have a Kenya 2030. Now we need to think about who's the Kenyan 2030. Who's the Kenyan we want? How are they educated? How moral and immoral or immoral are they? What kind of society do we want? We've engineered our roads. It's time we engineered ourselves.
Wow, we've engineered our roads. It's time we engineer ourselves. We start thinking about Kenya. We need to think about the Kenyans of 2030.
Yes.
The Kenyan of 2030. Yeah. Have you figured out your tackle of the day?
Yes. Kenyans, we need to understand that politicians were born by one mother. That means they have a certain selfishness, a certain way of thinking that if we get embroiled in their battles, sometimes we as Kenyans end up losing. So you as a citizen, you're responsible for your own happiness, responsible for your own progress, responsible to ensure that your life is safe. In this political season, do not allow yourself to be misused. Eka kwa lungs. And by the way, don't cry a river for anybody. Wakimaliza at the end of the day, as Mark said, mali wanakutanaga where the kiss and makeup. You and I are not there. So mind your own business and the rest of it, let's enjoy the show.
Haya. Joy in short anasema, wanasiasa ni kama driver matatu. Driver matatu wa Mulolongo na wa Ngong wanafanana.
Walizaliwa na mama moja.
Na wa Rongai wanafanana. Hata uende Western kwa kona Busia.
Yes.
Driver matatu tabia ni ile ile. Uende Nyeri ni ile ile. Kwa hivyo usijikimbize ujepea stress kwa sababu ya driver wa matatu.
Yeah, because tomorrow you'll see these people bana sharing high fives and handshaking.
And drinking alcohol you can pay rent with.
Na sayo mumetukanana on their behalf.
And this is what I keep saying. On August 9th, we'll have a new president. It will be a Kenyan. It will also be a human being, not a monkey. And by the way, on 9th August, just pray for peace so that you can wake up and do what you're doing. Because your life will just remain the same. You wake up in the morning. If it's about me coming here, I'll still be coming here. That's the morning I'll wake up here. So I'm praying for peace. So the chances of your life really changing so much post 9th August is almost nil. So why should you kill your neighbor over it? Let's go. Let's engage in these conversations. Let's talk about ideas. Let's engage with the things that we want, the future that we want. And I like what Maka said at last. That even as we think about the country that we want, we must also think about the people that we want to become. And I think, and I look forward to having a people in August who will not demonstrate, who will not start beating their neighbors, who will not start wars and all that, and realize that this is just an election process. And by the way, you must learn best from politicians. In 2017, you were killing each other over Raila and Uhuru. Now, the dudes are together. They're having to say, my brother, my brother Uhuru, my brother Raila. In fact, I'll continue what you're doing. You're doing a very good job. Ndio bana nilisema uwezi niona. Until Monday, take care and see you in the Common Sense edition. Enjoy your weekend. It's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Ukiniona karibu na kwenu, usinipite. But thank God it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Take care. This is the Tackle Dance now. Bye-bye.